listen. So let's start with Andrew. Let's talk about the manufacturing renaissance project. That is so timely. Why don't we talk about the tour, and then we'll step back and look a little bit about who you are.
100%. So I am headlining this tour called the New American Manufacturing Renaissance Tour. And it came about because I had been getting requested to come speak to businesses and come speak to community members about these new careers that are exciting and very high paying. We had two pockets of our communities that need to speak to each other, but they just weren't figuring out the right words to say and how to communicate with each other, and the results weren't great. And then at the same time, we had a lot of studies that had been going on. Deloitte does a lot of good work with statistics, and it looked as if, and it still kind of looks as if with all these reshoring efforts, if we don't begin to get people skilled up and in front of these machines and running all this, these new jobs that we have, all this great industry 4.0 and technology and innovation that we are on the cusp of, won't really matter, because there won't be anybody to actually do the work. So I saw communities that I came from that needed help. And then I saw an industry that saved my life and that I love, 100% with everything in me. And I said, I got to make sure that this thing is still here. And I showed up. So I didn't see anybody, besides, making statuses. And the pandemic had a lot to do with this. But there was a lot of statuses. There were a lot of reports. There was a lot of digital stuff. And I just decided, hey, let me take all of this energy and get in front of the people. So I thought about what's the number one thing that is most transferable to begin to introduce our trade to the community that needs it, and then get them to a position where they'll be skilled up enough to work these jobs, right? And I figured going into Industry 4.0, that would be something like 3D design, CAD CAM, right? And designing parts and then programming them to be able to run them. And if that was your introduction, then I could start to build those bridges. So I went out and talked to Mastercam and talked to a couple of people, and they, got behind me and we got on the road.
I love that story. I love your passion. And let's talk about now, that's all the work you're doing. You're out there, you're promoting jobs in manufacturing, but a lot of people have been doing that. What's different is that what you're talking about, and I'd like to give a little context for people, since you say this quite directly and openly, that you are a felon, or were a felon, a drug dealer. You lived on the streets, a teen father. Right. So can you talk a little bit about that transition of where you came from, and why is that important? Why do you need to say that and talk about that?
So absolutely, it's something that is a story of coming to a crossroads, and making a decision for myself, but then also having something that can support me in walking that road, right? And there's a lot of people in America right now that feel like they have no options, right? And most of these people aren't aware of our industry, whether they, like I said at my shows, it's typically hoodies and gold tees sitting right next to flannels and cowboy boots, right? And the message is universal, because there aren't a lot of jobs. You turn on the news and you see violence and the economy crashing, especially here in America, and people have a scarcity mindset, and they don't think that, there is opportunity or a way out. So I like to tell my story of, where I came from, because manufacturing was the vehicle that got me out of that. And not only got me out of that, it helped me thrive and become a person that now can go back and give back both to the community and my industry. So I feel like that's something that everybody deserves. It's an amazing feeling. And I think that once we all become servants of, our passions and servants of our community, then we'll all rise and we'll start turning this thing around.
Your story is truly amazing, and there's a lot of depth there that and I really encourage people to go follow Andrew, read his backstory, learn about where he came from. And one of the things I'm most impressed with is that we talked about this too, because I talk about sign up, suit up, and show up. And signing up, you mentioned this mindset. It is about a lot of what we can do is look at, what's the first step towards change, right?
Yeah.
And it's often.
Well, the cool thing is that's exactly what I do in both of these communities, right? So on the New American Manufacturing Renaissance Tour, I go into these cities and I'm there for 2 days. The first day, I'm fully concentrating on parents. I'm concentrating on school districts, counselors. I'm concentrating on students in CTE programs, or just in not knowing what they want to do, period, right? And then second chance, people that need a second chance in life, right? Mm-hmm. Blanket, whatever that means, right? And they come in and I give them the awareness of these jobs. And the first thing I do is talk about your mindset and how your mind has to be open to doing things that you never thought were for you, right? And looking at them in a different angle. When I go to second day 2, I do a manufacturing mixer where I have the community, the manufacturing community come out. I have the SMEs. I have the manufacturing associations. Those type of people come out, and over drinks and free food, we just have conversations about retention-based leadership. And the first thing that I tell them is we've got to change our mindset on this side if we want to attract people who don't think like us, right? And the youth has a whole different mindset than we have. And once we can change our angle and then show them how to change their angle, then we're cooking with grease, right? And then that communication and that bridge starts happening, and we start valuing what each other are saying, right? And that's where you get that ROI in the form of more parts, in the form of happier workers, in the form of people recruiting other people to come work and come fill those positions for you. So those are the types of things and exercises that we like to do on both sides. And mindset is always the first one. That's perfect.
Yes. And you also part of that. And that's what you're doing, as well as, I guess we could talk about what needs to happen too by some maybe recruiters and people in manufacturing, is the suit up. Because the suit up is about preparation, research, doing the work. I love the idea of a manufacturing mixer. That is great, because the more that we can learn about, and this is where curiosity comes in. We've talked about that. We both love curiosity, right? We are curious about so many things. So let's talk about that, suiting up, the research part, doing the work to get people connected. So what are some tips and suggestions that you would maybe recommend for people that are listening now that are in manufacturing going, but we put ads on Indeed, we've put ads out on LinkedIn, we just don't get people.
Yeah. So that's the first thing that people say, right? Is there's nobody out there, right? Or nobody wants to work. That's what I hear a lot. But this generation, they just don't want to work. And the issue is they all want to work. They just don't want to work for you. And what we have to do is we've got to, you don't have to bend all the way to where you break, but you just ought to have those open conversations. And because there's certain things that we went through when it comes to work, and having a job, that doesn't mean that we pass that on to the next generation. They're a entirely different group of workers, number one. So that's that mindset thing, right? Number two, we can start looking at the ways that we're spending our efforts, not just financially, but our energies and our culture inside of our plants. And for free, we can start to change some of those things, right? And you've got to make an avatar of the worker that you want. What do we really want? Because some people don't know. We'll take anything and just press a button. Well, taking anything is not going to help you, right? So you've got to be specific on what you want. Once you know what you want, you can go build that. Or you can go to other community members and say, hey, You guys at the Boys and Girls Club have an after-school STEM program. We want to donate our old machine that's collecting rust and help you build a curriculum. So then that way we're building and we're putting fish in the pond for us to come back to later and fish them out, right? But we've got to start changing the angle, and we've got to start thinking of different ways to serve the community that we want to in turn come serve us, if that makes sense.
Wow. That is, now there's a lot here, and I want to spend a bit of time on this again, because you said something too, is that I love it. They want to work. We just don't want to work for you. Like, and that's not said, I know that is actually reality, right? Because if people don't see a place for them, and you talk about having a seat at the table, and I've seen, women have seen this in the past too, is that, the table was smaller. Well, now we need to put a leaf in the table. We need to add extensions on the table. So can you talk a bit about,
well, I think you're 100% right. And the table's growing itself because of all of the great work that we have been doing up until this point. We should be patting ourselves on the back that our table is so long because manufacturing has come so far, and we have a heck of a table now. And now we've got 30 empty seats on this side, 30 empty seats on this side, and we're still telling the same 15 people to come eat. You know what I'm saying? And we're eating the same dishes every day. Like, aren't you bored? Like, enjoy the fruits of your labors, right? We earned it. So we might as well bring more people to our table and continue to watch it grow, but it's going to be stagnant, right? Or our table is going to turn into, across the seas table, right? And we'll be ordering from their restaurants instead of getting this good home cooked meal, right? So we've got to continue to invite people to these seats at the table. Let them bring a dish and let's talk. Let's sit down and let's talk and let's continue to build. I go back to the fishing analogy, right? And a guy said, the work that you're doing is really, really important because the older they call us, he's part of that group. We don't understand that when we were coming up, fish were jumping into the boat. We didn't even have to cast a lure. People were killing for these jobs. And now when we actually have to get out there and fish, we don't know how because we haven't in so long. So he was like, thank you, sir, for fishing for us and getting us back into the lakes and into the ponds because we got to be out here fishing. And that's the truth, man. We got to be out here and we got to be fishing. And if they're not biting on the bait that you're using, we got to switch it up, and we'll get the kids. We'll get the same ones that jump into the boat. They'll always be here. But now we got to work a little harder and get other ones as well. And it doesn't have to be permanent, right? We might have to change a couple of things, but it doesn't have to stay this way. Let's fill the pond back up, and then we can show that we can pivot and readjust because that's what our industry does. As machinists, as engineers, as all of these different great trades that go into manufacturing, we're problem solvers. That's what we do. So we run up into a wall and we say, all right, quote unquote, hold my beer, and I'm going to show you how to make this part that you said you couldn't make, right? And I'm going to rewrite this program. I'm going to make another fixture. We're going to make another process, but it's going to get done. That's what we do. It's in our bloodline. So why don't we look at this hiring problem the exact same way? It's something that we can do. We just got to do a different setup, change our tools, run this part, and on the way, we'll keep perfecting the process.
Whew. Someone just wrote about there is some fire being dropped here today. Andrew, I love the fishing analogy too. And, I come from a background too. At one point it was, you had to go make a pitch. You were going to present yourself to get someone to hire you. Like you had to make sure everything was, that you were on point. Now companies have to be the ones making the pitch. And I know Megan dropped a point, that if they don't see themselves in a brand's narrative, I'm jumping around in comments, but I do want to welcome Megan. Megan is in, wait a minute. There we go. Let me just get this. Get show. Here we go. No, that's not the right. Here we go. We'll get back to Mike in a minute. Okay. So welcome to Megan. I know you know Megan, right? Megan is in the house, and Megan's going to be a future guest as well here. Hello, Megan. I know Megan is also on fire. She's doing some amazing things.
So proud of Megan, and I'm glad. I didn't know we could talk about other people's podcasts on your show, but that's my dog, man. Yes. Y'all two are gonna rock it together.
You know what? Yes, you can talk about other people's podcasts. I am all about showing up and supporting other podcasts, supporting other people.
It's collaboration, man. That's what we do. That's how we keep lifting each other. And if more manufacturing companies would collaborate with each other, if American manufacturing got more collaborative, we'll blow it up. People always say, well, I don't want to start a training program because I'm going to train people to lead. No, you're training more people for the pond. You're just populating the pond. Because when you do it, then this company is going to get more workers if that's where they're all going. And then you say, hey, you start a training program as well. I'll get some of yours because some people don't like running these parts. Some people don't like running those parts. And then if we all populate the pond, we can get all, we can fill all these positions. They're all local. But, we'll get there one day. That's why I work so hard.
With people like you and Megan on the scene, yes, this will definitely happen. And I just want to, so Megan says, if they don't see themselves in a brand's narrative, they won't want to hang out with you. And this is what you were saying about, there are seats at the table, but there's also going to be a role for companies to play to start looking at something you call opportunity. And that your quote is that genius is a bit, I'll let you say it.
Genius is equally distributed. Opportunity is not. Yeah. And, if the saying holds true that necessity is the mother of invention, then that means the invention is in the trailer parks. The invention is in the projects. The invention is in the hood. The invention is where the lack is most, So if we started to get into these areas and say, hey, here's this thing that can help you with a platform to show this genius that you have. Let me give you an outlet for this thing and show you how to make some money. We can really start to change, the very fabric of all of North America. Because, I've seen Toronto. I can't get in because of my past, but it's a hood there. There's hoods in Canada. You know what I'm saying? There's very rural areas where people are struggling all over, and manufacturing is the only industry where there's a job multiplier. So for me as a machinist to make parts, somebody had to cut the metal, or maybe it was me, or somebody brought it in. There was logistics. There was a truck driver. There was a person filling that truck up. There's somebody in the front office working sales. There's a person shipping and making sure that the parts are going out. There's an inspector. There's a programmer. There's all these different jobs that come out of that, right? And what better way to turn around a zip code or a country or a continent even than to invest in innovation and manufacturing, which begets jobs, which begets taxpayers, which begets people that are using their minds for something positive instead of, an idle mind giving us what we got now,
And, it is really about, like you said, that opportunity and looking in different places. And again, I stress for anybody in HR, human resources, recruiting, any listening, please take a look at Andrew's background and start looking at, how someone like Andrew has turned things around. And often when people do turn things around, they become, I find it's like I always say, it's like reformed smokers. A reformed smoker is usually the biggest anti-smoker.
Yeah. Yep. And that and I feel like, that's again my duty to our industry. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'll never be the best programmer, I'll never be the best machinist, I'll never be the best, engineer, whatever it may be, but I can teach this trade, I can do this trade. And if I can be a testament to a person that says, hey, it saved him, it could save me, then I'm paying my industry back one step at a time. And I feel like I've got a unique skill set to where I can cross barriers, groups of people. I can talk this machine stuff, and I can talk, to my community. I can talk to rural communities. I can talk to, communities that have, thank God, given me the opportunity to speak for them for this seat because I have this seat at this table that I've fought for and I'm fighting for every day. But they listen, you know what I'm saying? And they hear me, and they know that I hear them, and they know that I can come back and sit at a boardroom or be on a podcast like this where executives are going to hear me, and I can tell them, hey, women want this, man. Listen to them. Can I bring somebody in here, and I can use my platform to give the voice to the people that have not been able to have one, you know, and that came with a lot of hard work. That came with having to earn my respect in this industry. But, you know, because I'm here now, I can't do anything else. I got to keep finding people, and I got to keep bringing them, you know, to this fountain called manufacturing, because it can save everybody, man. And I know it sounds evangelical, but, you know, it's the truth. And you know, we've got to look at this thing, you know, the great resignation where we are right now as a huge opportunity. Back to that word. This is an opportunity for us to stop doing what we've been doing and completely turn this thing around and switch it up, you know, and what else do we have to lose, you know? So let's continue to look at this thing as an opportunity. Let's study what other industries have been doing, and let's sign up, you know, let's suit up and let's show up and let's do these things, and let's begin to bring these people in and begin to change, you know, our industry and change these cities and these counties and you know, reap the benefits from it.
And, you know, exactly, you know, as my background is in journalists, so I say I'm a recovering journalist, but likewise, I kind of came into manufacturing through networking, through connecting with some people, and then found like, wow, this is such an amazing industry and so much potential. And like you, I always look at opportunity, and there is so much opportunity right now. So it all depends on, you know, it's like the two sides of the coin. How do you want to look at it? Do you want to look at it as, oh my God, there's no way out? Or do you look at it as, hey, let's get creative about where we're going to find people? I want to go over to the comments, and then we're going to come back and talk a bit more about that and about, you know, some tips again for people in recruiting HR about how they can maybe do this. Some ideas. You mentioned Boys and Girls Club. You mentioned, I know Megan mentioned too, correctional facilities. And a lot of people, you know, fear those things. And yet there's a lot of people too that end up in correctional facilities that, you know, haven't done things that necessarily like.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's. Hey, we're here. Let's talk about it. So, yeah. So this is where manufacturers are missing the ball, right? Like you said, like I always say, I'm a felon. You know what I'm saying? 2-time before I was 18. You know, so I am the person that you guys were scared of, and look what I'm doing now with the opportunity, right? And manufacturing jobs drop the recidivism rate by 87%. There's a 93% chance that if you're a felon, you will recommit and be locked up within the first 3 years of you paroling, right? With a manufacturing job, because of the fact that it has it pays high. There's tons of hours. It's work that you can upskill and do whatever you want, you know, and it's that life-changing. You don't have to supplement your income with the things that you were doing in the streets, right? So this is something that you can really focus, you can really count, and you can count for somebody, right? So one of the things that I do, you want workers right now that are going to work hard for you, that have a lot to lose if they don't work hard for you. Reach out to community organizations that are working with felons trying to get back into society, or that are working with felons that are ex-felons trying to stay into society, right? And what they'll do is they will have bonding insurance, right? Bonding insurance will insure you against anything that could happen if you hire felons. There's, here in America, tax breaks that you will get for hiring felons, right? After that, if you upskill them, there's more money that you can get back. Also, this is something that people don't really realize. The organizations are going to do most of the work of the things that you're scared of, right? So if you can't, you know, you're scared of this person doesn't have the soft skills, and there's no conflict resolution or anything like that. If I go confront this person, now you've got a liaison, number one. Number two, they won't send the person into the program to start working until they have their certificate that they went through some of those soft skill training. And you can call and say, hey, man, maybe you guys could work more on this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. And you don't even have to do it. You just have to give them hours, have them come there, train them, be a good person. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to get somebody that is dedicated to you like that anywhere else. Battered women's shelters. Amazing place. Second shift, third shift, women that need something. There are women right now that are in horrible situations and they don't know how to leave. They're not allowed to work, whatever it may be. And they could use a second shift job. They could use a third shift job that pays manufacturers rates to be able to leave that situation right now, to be able to get on their own too and stand on their own too. And they're ready to work. They'll be your best workers. And I'm sorry, I'm passionate about those two subjects. But man, let's start looking at these communities in a good way, and let's serve them, and they'll serve us so well back, man. And it doesn't cost anything.
This reminds me, I know someone who fosters teenage boys from Children's Aid. And, I'm thinking about it. A couple of them have got work in manufacturing, and you're right. They love it. You know what? They also love the sense of, process and consistency. So yes, that is really amazing. You said, I've just been thinking about that, about how to tap into these youth as well. Youth.
Yes. And we've got it all. We have it all. So we just had a wave of people that's called the Great Resignation, right? So that means they resign from somewhere. These are working people. These are people that know how to work or have had a job, right? Then we've got a whole new class of skilled workers that are coming and joining the job pool every single day. We can skill them up and take advantage of that. We've got third shift jobs if you want them. We've got second shift jobs if you want them. Still got a lot of older people on day shift, so they're probably not going to go anywhere. But eventually you can get to day shift if you want to. We've got CNC machines. We've got manual machines. We got cells where you can run 3 machines. We've got teams that you can work on. You can work by yourself. You can work in a programming room behind a computer if you want. There's all of these different opportunities. If we look at our business models and say, okay, why did these people leave their industries? And how can we look at creative ways to give them what they want? Because we have it all, right?
Mm-hmm. We do have it all.
Remote jobs, work from home, be a programmer. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a whole lot of ways, and connecting our manufacturing industry with Industry 4.0, with smart computers, with AI, with AR, VR, is making it way more easier for us to accommodate all of the things that they like.
I love it. I'm going to put in a plug for, I do work with Canadian Mental Health Association, and they have a new youth hub here in the community. And that's the same thing. It's about for youth to come out to, and it's actually a lot around prevention, education, trying to get youth that are maybe, starting down roads that they, whether it's through a mental health issue, addictions, eating disorders, whatever. And that's something I think there's a great connection here to manufacturing.
100%. And so when you get into a lot of these areas where there is the lack, whether that be rural, whether that be urban, there's a lot of mental health issues that come along with it because of all the systemic things that have been there for a long time and the generational stuff that's passed down. And then with the lack, you have that, what's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't have those met, you can't really be a whole person because you're worried about doing those things. And with manufacturing jobs, the pay is enough to where at least if you're living in your means, some of your needs, your bills are going to be paid. You can feed yourself. You can get a house. You know what I'm saying? And then you can start thinking clearly, and you can start thinking in creative mode instead of survival mode, right? Mm-hmm. And we offer that to people, right? And then you can start working on those mental health things because you can take a step back from being in survival mode, and you can start being introspective and say, that's what happened with me. Like, I was able to, not have to worry about, am I going to get violated again because I got to go, I can't pay rent, so I got to go make a play on the curb real quick, and make this 500. I didn't have to do that. I could pick up 2 more hours because they were throwing hours at me. I can work a 12, every day if I want to, and I can do it the legal way now. And then I can be too tired when I come home to even worry about no hood stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I can afford I can talk to a therapist. I can talk to a psychologist, and I can start working on some of these things because I can afford it. Or my manufacturing job came with benefits. First time I love manufacturing. First time I had benefits and my kids went and got their teeth checked and did all those regular things was because of Inpro Seal in Moline, Illinois, that gave me a manufacturing job and gave me an opportunity to have insurance so I could do some of those things for my kids. And it's like, yo, just natural, normal things like that. You don't know how much it means to a person, and a person doesn't know how much that means to them until they actually know that it exists. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So many life-changing things that we can do, and we just got to start telling people in a way that they want to hear it, that we have these opportunities, we've got all this stuff for you, and we want you. Come on, you're wanting here.
I think you said that best too, telling people in a way that they want to hear it. And I want to go to our studio audience for a bit because it is blowing up. We're going to zip through some comments. I know people have been dropping some amazing gems. I didn't want to, because you had so many great ideas, and it's really important for a lot of people that are listening even now or later. I really wanted them to hear some of those ideas that you were suggesting about, women's shelters, about correctional facilities. Like, if you go knock, and there's organizations that you're right, like that is such a creative way of looking at things. And I just want to add this before we go to the comments, that I was at an event where they had a panel, and the stat, it was shocking to me, but yet it shouldn't be, is that something like 75%, there's a 75% unemployment rate among people with disabilities. And I thought, oh my God, there is. So again, if you can start to shift and look differently at who you're hiring.
But I want to say this real quick, if I can. I want to take a moment to say this. And I'm brash, but it's only because I care, right? Like I said, people want to work, they just don't want to work for you. But that's okay, because if you know what they want and why they don't want to work for you, you can change it. So back to people with disabilities. We have studies that say that people that are on the autism spectrum are great for our jobs, okay? And that's very true. However, this comes with showing up and signing up and actually doing your homework, because we have manufacturers that say, oh, let's just get them. The spectrum is a spectrum. Depending where they are, depends on what job they can do and how they can do it. And then there's wraparound services that you need to offer as well. So don't half-ass do the job. Excuse my French, but I've been blessed to be able to, be a spokesperson for people with disabilities as well. And that's one of the things that grinds my gears, is people don't do enough work to understand the spectrum, and they don't understand everything that goes along with some of the things that they live with, right? And you need to be fully aware before you bring someone into your plant of what that is, and the best way to serve them, to help them serve you, and you will have a great relationship. But it's not blanket, and don't just be going out there and hurting people, please.
I worked in a company that hired someone who did have some special needs, but his mind was brilliant, and he was allowed. There was,
they always are.
Right. Yeah. There was freedom for him to walk around the building. So when you were hired, you're sort of told, okay, you might see this, and pass him by in the hallway, but and that's that culture. If this culture, if I see my peers treating this person a certain way, good or bad, most likely I'm going to do the same, especially if my peers are authorities, right? If I see somebody that's on the spectrum with a executive job or with a job with big responsibilities, then I know that people here recognize and they understand that that is a good thing, and I will too, or I'll try to learn this person, right? But if we have the same thing that minorities deal with in shops a lot, women deal with in shops a lot, people with disabilities deal with in shops a lot, the whispering and treating people different because they're different, just because you haven't interacted with them or taught yourself enough on how to treat them, then you're part of the problem, and you're pushing that culture and showing that it's okay in your plant without you maybe even knowing. Yeah. No, and there are so many areas that you're right. You have to do the research and understand that you don't want to call people out either. And there's really a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure. But there's also lots of resources. Like I said, I do work with Canadian Mental Health Association. There's lots of organizations. Pick up the phone and ask for help. Say, because some people are afraid to address certain things. But you know what? You gotta.
Cancel culture sucks, and there's no place for it. There's no place for it in America. I feel like, you know, people need to be open to letting people change. Now, if you know you're doing wrong and you've been taught better and you don't choose to do better, then see it. You need to see yourself out. You know what I'm saying? But we don't need to be so quick to, you know, judge people. And I'm a big proponent, and that's why I love that I could be the bridge, because there's a lot of great SMEs. There's a lot of great tech schools. There's a lot of great companies that have amazing intentions, and maybe they don't know enough to where they're verbalizing things that might be a little bit offensive. But once they're taught, and once I can come in and I can give them these lessons, and we can go through some of my workshops, and I can get out in the community on behalf of them, then those walls start to break down and the learning starts to happen, right? But then we've also got to understand that a lot of these marginalized communities that do cancel y'all have been taking a whole lot from y'all for a long time. And I'm not saying you specifically, but manufacturing industry, a lot of the things that people have had to deal with, they've been dealing with it since the 50s and the 60s, right? So women in the plant, people with disabilities in the plant, Black and brown people in the plant have been eating it on their shoulders for a long time. So they might not be as quick to hear you, but you got to keep working, and they're going to hear you, but you got to be understanding that there might be some issues there. Yeah. Might not be your fault. You may not have been working there, but it's been there for a long time, you know?
Well, you know, we talk about this. Be curious, not judgmental. And it really is about, I mean, and things don't change overnight. That's the other thing. And I think that's really good that you address that. You know, be aware that, you know, but if you look long term, you will have success and that's, I think, what you have to look at is the long game, because there could be some bumps along the way. But you know what? As you said, manufacturers have been dealing with bumps a very long time. I mean, they deal with all sorts of. That's what they do. So let's go to a few comments, then we'll come back and start to wrap up. I just want to go through, I'm going to go through fairly quickly, but I just want to because Whitney said we shut too many people out of the workforce because of their past. Yes, that we could agree on that. And Ingrid said, it's so important to show others that there are options and that there's hope for us all. I like that too. I'm a big believer in hope. I have to believe in hope right now, because sometimes I think in the world, I have to believe there is goodness.
We forget sometimes. Yeah. I just had a reminder of hope. I'm gonna let you keep reading these. Yeah.
Mike has said he wants to send you. He said there's someone in. I don't know who that is, Mike. Do you want to drop in the comments? I don't know. He said there's a Canadian. There's a few, so I don't know who's. But he said to reach out. Whitney says it's so important having someone to lead the way and show it's possible, and that is something Andrew does. He goes into workplaces and he can help lead the way. We have Katie says that's an incredible story. Yes. And Whitney says, love this so much. I never knew anything about manufacturing before my current role. How valuable it is that you're out there presenting all the opportunities. Yes. Mike says he also has another constructive idea. Okay. Mike is full of ideas. So he's left his email. So we'll let you guys connect.
I'm glad the music didn't make him leave.
No. Mike is pretty too. You know, that's the other thing. You got a little, so Megan says, what's up? So excited to see you in Cincinnati at IMTS. Yes. Thank you again. Megan was dropping some great comments. There's lots of, so you'll notice in here, there's lots of people tagging back and forth saying hello.
I love it.
Now, Mike, he was referenced, I think don't train on old equipment. New is better. I think what you were saying though, sometimes, it's better than nothing, right? Like if there's a piece of equipment,
100%.
I agree.
100%. Now, Mike, I would love for the new equipment to make it into these areas, but we got to start somewhere. And you know, I gave an analogy one time. I'm not going to say their name, but there's a company, a robotics company that was like, yo, we're going to send a robot on the road with you so the kids can see it. And, you know, they didn't have their showroom model was an older one, and they were reluctant on sending it. And I told them, you know, in these rural communities and these urban communities that I go to, they've never seen one. So they wouldn't know if this was brand new or 15 years old. And the real good test is when I come back next year, if they tell me like, yo, Drew, Mr. Andrew Crowe, that robot you brought last year was old, and these are the specs of a new one. This is actually what it should be doing. And now I know that that seed that planted in that kid's head actually grew, and he went and did the work on his own, and he signed up, he suited up, and he showed up, you know, and now this kid really knows what he's talking about.
There we go. And Anger says, you are bringing the fire today. I love it. I tell you, usually, often I'm the one, but I mean, you are just, whoo, there is so much here. I might have to go back and watch it again myself. There's so much here. We have Katie said, nice take. Whitney says, so this is also people tagging. We have, Katie's always, I love her. She says, hold my beer and pasta.
Let's go.
Andrew said the magic word process. So David Chrysler, if you haven't connected with David afterwards, we'll try to tag me with him. We call him the king of process. He is all about going into companies and talking about process, just like your process, my process. You know, it's so important that, and companies looking to recruit need a process. And part of that process is coming up with a list of organizations to reach out to. I think that is what I'm taking away from this is how can you get creative and look at a new list?
Gotta have a plan. And the best thing about a process is it gives you data for you to go back and, you know, and interpret, right? And then you can change the process and just keep improving on it, just like we do as manufacturers on the manufacturing floor. So we just have to approach our same problem that we have right now like we do as manufacturers. 6S, Kanban, Kaizen, you know, let's have the flow good. And we got it.
And collaboration, which you heard. And then Inger said collaboration is key. Yes, Ubuntu. Now, Inger is...
Yeah, that's what's up. You're hip.
Inger is from South Africa, and she talks about Ubuntu. Okay. So that is sort of her area. And she has a live show every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Live Eastern Standard Time.
That's early.
And we have Megan saying, Andrew is my brother from another mother. He and his wife are amazing. Oh, there we go. And his wife is Whitney, and we have a Whitney too. Whitney. It's a very cool name. Whitney says that would be so transformative for community. Megan, we already talked about that. Correctional facilities. And then, of course, Katie said there is not more opportunity in any industry than manufacturing. Yes. And we're going to talk a little bit after we finish this. We're going to go back to talking about showing up on social media. Okay. Andrew is speaking to the next generation a different way, and it's a tone that they are connecting themselves with. He's making manufacturing cool like Nike. Yes. And, you know, a lot of times what you got fired up, you got passionate, and you were speaking. And what I really appreciate is that we need to sometimes we need a kick in the butt sometimes. A lot of people that are, you know, out there doing things, we need a bit of a wake up call. So,
and I'll say this as well. Like, you know, as an industry, I want y'all to listen. We don't have the luxury anymore of sugarcoating these things. You know what I'm saying? We're in a position where it's critical when we talk about, or anybody talks about, not even just me, people that know manufacturers and talk to them a lot, their top 3 things that they're worried about somewhere in there is hiring. It's workforce somewhere along the lines in their top 3 right now. And, you know, we don't have the luxury of being nonchalant or cool about it.
Yeah, no, we don't. You know what? I am, and I just want to say, Elizabeth said, love the energy, Andrew. Yeah. So there's some more comments. I do want to get to them. We might have to come towards the end of the show because I do want to get to a bit about social media, but you are right. We need to get fired up and we can't be complacent. We can't sit back. And sometimes we need to have someone throw a bit of cold water on faces and say, wake up, people, and let's get to this. And I love that that's what you're doing. And, you know, like you said, you are showing up as you said you could, you know, I know you can show up in a suit, you could show up in all different ways, but I love that you are also holding on to some of your identity so that people can see that you have broken the cycle and you're doing some amazing things, which segues into showing up on social media. I just saw you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, you were rocking LinkedIn. So can you talk a little bit about how you're using in social media and why it's important for manufacturers to use social media for their branding, not just for sales, but also for recruiting?
That's where everybody is, you know, so whatever you want, whether it's a new job order, whether it's an RFQ from a new customer or whether it's from, people that are seeing your shop and the jobs that are in there as something that they want to do or something that's cool for the rest of their life, you got to be there, right? And the problem though is, number one, you can't just be there in an unplanned way, right? So that's where that collaboration comes from, right? If you've never had a social media presence as a company and nobody inside your company can commit to having this as a job, you need to collaborate with somebody who does it, right? Same thing with what I do with speaking to companies and helping them learn how to talk to the community, speaking to the community, showing them how to come get these jobs and skill up for them, right? If you're not a person that can do that, or there's nobody in your company that can do that, and by do that, not just like there's a girl that sits at the desk and she's on social media all day, or there's a guy that sits at the machine and he's scrolling the internet all day. That's not social media, right? If they don't have a following, if they can't get people to engage, if they can't show your company in a way that not you just want to see it, but the people that are looking at it want to see it, then you need to collaborate with someone and either have them do it for you and outsource it, or come teach you guys how to make it happen. Because social media can hurt you and it can help you. It can help you leaps and bounds, but it can also hurt you leaps and bounds. And if you show things in social media in a way that, your audience that you hope that you get doesn't relate with, they'll tune you out, right? And not only will they tune you out, but social media has made the world small. So if I do have a following and I say that company's trash, I work there, guess what all of my followers are going to believe as well? That company's trash. And when it's time to go, get a job order completed, or when it's time to go look for a place of employment, they're not going to want to go there, because when they Google, my search results came up first, or if you don't have a social media presence at all, kids are going to Google, customers are going to Google, and they're going to find pages of people before they find you. So this is where everyone is, and you have to have a strategy to be able to go get them. Gone are the days where, you got the grandfathered in, and word of mouth is not working like that anymore, because everybody's connected and everything's smaller. So people are shopping quotes around. There's new softwares people are, listening, grabbing quotes off of. We're in a new age, and you got to get with it.
And one of the things that I work with on clients is that if you're going to show up, just don't show up only when you want something. So only when you're looking to hire, only when you want to sell. You need to have consistency. You need to have your messaging, because there are going to be people still that won't like your workplace. And I found this has happened, and someone may post something, but if that's the only post, whereas if you have consistent content, consistently showing what you're doing, including more people in your social media, and also, like I would say, don't delete those negative comments. Like, to me, because that can create a whole other problem, right? So I would say,
and it's an opportunity if you leave it there, because they might be true. And then what if you change it? Now you got the opportunity to show we listen and we hear. That's a value that people would like to work for a company, that I can make a complaint. You guys are going to hear it and you guys are going to do something about it. That's a plus, right? So if you have bad reviews, definitely use those as indicators of how I can serve the community better. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Consistency. A lot of companies don't understand how important showing what they do is, right? There's a lot of kids that are in manufacturing and and excuse me.
Yep.
There's kids that are in manufacturing, whatever kind of way, and they probably have an idea of what they want to work for, right? Aerospace, medical, whatever. And there's only so many jobs at that big global corporation. But if you show, hey, we make those parts for that company, they outsource it to my mom and pop place, you could technically kind of work for them by working for me without all of the same oversight, all of the same, this is the fun way to work for Boeing, or this is the fun way to work for SpaceX. This is the fun way to work for Ford, or whatever you like, automotive, medical, whatever it is, we serve it all. But here we do the exact same thing, and you probably just didn't know about it because our name's not on the final product. but you can work in that same industry the
Mhm.
way that you want to, a lot more flexible, a lot more laid back. And then those reviews don't really much matter because they're looking at what they want to get into when they go do it. Number one. Number two, if we don't show what we're doing, nobody knows. Nobody knows what we're doing. I want to talk about today. I want to talk about today and women in the industry. There's women, the Catch Me Outside girl. That's what she's called. I don't know how to pronounce her rap name. Young girl was about to put hands on Dr. Phil and she got famous, right? She just announced that herself and two other black women, she's not a black lady, but two black women that have this fund, put $1.7 million up for people to go to trade schools and be entrepreneurs, right? It took women to do it. Guys, listen up. We've been in this industry and you guys have had the opportunity for a long time and we haven't done it. Cheers to those women. Number one, keep letting women in. Y'all gotta listen. But we have to give that opportunity, right? And that is the power of social media. Kids are gonna see that she's a social media star and they're gonna say, hey, trades are making a whole lot more sense now. And we as an industry have to say, okay, this is trades. Now we have to aggressively get in contact with this girl or get in contact with people and point them to this scholarship so they then know that we're a trade too. Because when people talk about trades, they know plumbers, they see plumbing vans, they know electricians, they see electrician trucks, they see people in construction uniforms, but nobody sees a machinist. Right? There's no machinist van. There's no machinist truck. There's no machinist nothing that people can say, oh, that's what that is. And we're not vocal enough that we are a trade too. We're the best trade and we need to get in. So we need to have an all out, APB lining up with people that are putting the light on the industries and say, hey, manufacturing is here too. That's that collaboration. That's getting behind people that have the attention of the people that we want and they're doing something about it. We've got to come behind that and lift it up and point them our direction.
Yes, so much yes. Okay, Andrew, we're just going to wrap up. I mean, there's so much more to talk about. Probably at some point down the road, we'll talk again. And because there's so many things here and we'll hear more about your tour. You've got lots on your plate. You're one busy guy. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know how full your calendar is. So thank you for showing up on GailNow Live today. Let's end with, how do you exercise your curious mind?
Every day, man. So I exercise my curiousness with my gratefulness. So what I try to do is I try to, for the first hour of my day, just make a whole hour of things that I'm grateful for. And as I verbalize the things that I'm grateful for, things that I'm curious about start popping up. Or there's things that I want to expand on through my gratefulness and through my gratitude. So that gets my curiosity going, which gets my innovative mind and my creative mind going. And for the rest of the day after my gratefulness, I go chase after those things that came, right? So I can be grateful about them happening, the next day and the next day after that. But that's how I do it, man, with my gratitude.
I love that. Gratitude is so powerful. It ties in with that mindset as well. There's so many times that has happened. I've thought about something, or I often say this in the work, some of the areas that I work in, I said, visualize what you want to see happen in your life. And wow, very powerful. So I have the ticker across the bottom. I'm going to have you just go in the green room. I'll be there in just a minute. So if you can just wait for a minute, and then I'm just going to do my sign off. Thank you so much. You've been a very powerful, enlightening, entertaining guest. So thank you. Okay, one moment. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for tuning in today, being part of this amazing show with Andrew Crowe. Please take some time to follow him, comment on his posts. He's done some amazing. He just did a video talking about how he landed in Charlotte. We didn't really get into that too much, but opportunity is all around us. And it's only when we decide to step up and then embrace that and really look at how we can utilize opportunity in so many areas of retention and recruiting. Obviously, it will also work with sales as well. And remember, when you sign up and suit up, it makes showing up so much more powerful and successful as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in. You can find me, well, here on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. You'll probably see a fair bit about my cycling escapades. So that's been something that I've got into and really see the power of process in that. I'm also on Instagram and on TikTok just for fun, but you know what? You can have fun too. That's the one part of social media sometimes is finding those avenues. So thanks everyone. I also have, my website is GailNow and my YouTube channel. If you want to hear some of the previous shows, please go to the YouTube channel, GailNow, and you can watch this show on replay as well as hear from some of my past guests. Thanks everyone for commenting. You've made today special and added in some real great information. And well, we will see you next week. We have lots of great guests coming up, some of the people from the manufacturing world as well. So I will be signing off. I'm going to the green room to have a little chat with Andrew. And so enjoy your day. Happy Wednesday, everyone.